Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the next edition of our In the Know webinars brought to you by our good friends, Max. Today's topic is patron safety, security and cleanliness procedures in the COVID world. And as you know, New South Wales clubs in particular know that there's been some further relaxation of restrictions that are starting today. But the things that we're going to be talking about are still consistent with what we've been required to implement in our venues since the 1st of June. And this is a good opportunity for people to have all of these key points reminded to them and to have any questions answered if you have some further questions. Today we have three presenters. Our first presenter is Rebecca Riley, who is the Senior Compliance Officer for Liquor and Gaming New South Wales. And Rebecca will be able to update you on what's currently the new regulations, the new requirements, as well as remind you of the previous requirements. Our second speaker is Rob Mulherin from Crest Security, who will talk about some patron safety issues and security matters. And our third speaker is Dean Thomas, who is the CEO of Canterbury Hurlstone Park RSL Club and is also the chairman of the RSL and Services Clubs Association. Now, I remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that if you wish to ask a question, down the bottom of your screen there's a little box called Q&A. You have to write your questions and I get to see them, and then I will try and ask each presenter those questions. If there are too many questions, we may have to write to you afterwards with those answers. But if you have a question, please use the Q&A box to type in a question and we'll try and get to you as soon as we can. I'll now take my PowerPoint slide down and invite Rebecca to put her slide up, and invite Rebecca Riley from Liquor and Gaming New South Wales to start her presentation. Welcome, Rebecca.
Hello, and thank you for having me. Okay, I'll just pull this one up. Okay, so what I'm going to be discussing today is Liquor and Gaming New South Wales and the work that we've been doing over the last couple of weeks regarding your COVID safety plans, and also touch on the changes that come into play as of today. So in June, Liquor and Gaming New South Wales inspectors were appointed under the Public Health Act for the purpose of assisting New South Wales Health in monitoring and regulating the public health orders that have been put in place in licensed venues during the pandemic. Now, over the past 3 weeks, our inspectors have conducted 919 COVID safety inspections. So that was the number as of midday today. And everything that we have been discussing, you can find in the COVID safety plans. Now, we're currently up to Public Health Order number 4, so I've included that in this slide here. Now, the major changes that have occurred as of today are regarding the capacity, so the removal of the 50 max, and now it's based purely on the square meterage. So you can find that under the Public Health Order number 4, but everything that has been changed or still stands has been updated in the new COVID safety plan, which I've also popped up here for you, which is effective as of this morning. So that one will be dated, you'll see in the corner there, the 30th of June, and that's the most recent and current one. So just have a look at that one, just to ensure that you're still ticking over everything there. So what our inspectors have been doing is checking that every venue has one of these. So it's a requirement under that public health order that your licensed venues have a, well, basically that they've created and they are complying with a COVID safety plan, and it outlines everything that needs to be in place to meet the legislation. So these are fantastic and will include everything that I'm going to touch on today. So there's 4 major areas that are included in that safety plan. For the purpose of today, I've been asked to discuss the hygiene and cleaning with you. But just be mindful that there are 4 major areas, but all of that's included in that document, which you can find on the New South Wales Government website if you do need any assistance with that. So in terms of the hygiene and cleaning, we're going to be looking at, just throughout my presentation, your staff hygiene, your high touch surface hygiene, as well as your communal area and dining hygiene. So as I said, it's important that your venue has a COVID safety plan, and these things also need to outline the plans for your staff. Now, it's important that your staff are aware of their leave requirements or what they're required to do if they are unwell or need to self-isolate. Okay, there should also be systems in place where possible to designate staff to particular areas. Now, if you can, it's not possible in all venues, and there's certainly not a one size fits all with these COVID checklists. But if possible, if you can keep staff in one particular area or in one particular role, you're going to minimise the cross contact that they have. Hopefully that you can include something like that in that plan as well. It's also really important that the COVID safety plans have information on staff hygiene when they're on their meal breaks, staggered break times, and the cleanliness in staff rooms and designated smoking areas. Now, I'm sure all of the clubs and hotels have a lot of these hygiene practices in place inside the venue, but it's really important, especially if your staff are moving away from where it's all controlled on their breaks, that those areas are also taken care of as well. It's super important to provide your staff with information and training about where they can get tested, about the importance of staying away from work when they are sick, the physical distancing requirements, and update those as they go, and the cleaning requirements. It's really important that the staff are across their obligations under the current legislation as well. One thing as well, when we have been conducting these compliance inspections, is encouraging venues, licensees, secretaries, managers to regularly check in on the wellbeing of their staff. It's really strange times at the moment, and it's been unusual, and it's really important that we're checking in on the staff as well. So probably the most important out of, in regards to the hygiene and cleaning, is those high touch surfaces. So these are just some basic things that our inspectors have been looking out for when they have been going into these venues. So these cleaning requirements, they go beyond the normal food standards and the requirements that existed before the COVID-19 pandemic. So probably the first one that you'll have at your venues is your sign-in kiosks and your patron registers. So that includes not only your sign-in terminals for the clubs, but also anything that you're using to record and retain patron information, which you need to do at the moment under the order. So a few things that we've seen, staff disinfecting their hands or using gloves when handling licenses, also the use of digital licenses where possible. And we've also seen some venues being really clever with their pens as well, having buckets of used pens, clean pens, and having those regularly cleaned as well. There's also a lot of venues that are doing a contactless QR code, which is fantastic. It stops any handling of anything, and everyone can enter in their own details as well. Your tables and chairs are another important one that need it to be regularly cleaned or disinfected between groups. We've seen a few clever systems in place. A couple of venues have had coasters that are turned when a table's occupied, and until it has been turned to say that it has been disinfected, a new table can't be seated there. There's a lot of clever ideas that we've seen floating around. It's just important that your venue finds out what works for them. Nobody will probably be meeting that checklist in the same way, and nobody knows your venue better than you. So you might find that as things change or progress, that you need to update or change the systems that you've got in place. Menus is a really important one. They need to either be laminated or disinfected. Laminated and disinfected between patrons, or alternatively be single-use disposable copies or accessed via a QR code. A lot of clubs have menus or promotional signs that are in the middle of tables in communal areas. It's important that these are taken away as well, unless they're being cleaned in between groups. Cash is another big one as well, especially in venues, licensed venues, the turnover of cash. It means we've got to pay particular close attention to that. So obviously we're encouraging contactless payment where you can. And you need to be regularly cleaning FPOS terminals, ATMs, CRT machines, even your EBTs, Keno kiosks and things like that, anything that people are putting their hands on. Your gaming machines as well are another really important one. So the screens and buttons need to be regularly disinfected, and hand sanitizer needs to be readily available across your gaming floor. Obviously, your gaming machines needed to be, you need to have social distancing in your gaming rooms as well. Every venue we've seen is doing it slightly different. Some people have spaced the machines, others have alternating ones turned off. Some people have reserved signs that can be moved, but someone needs to be monitoring that at all times as well. So sometimes that one's not as practical for bigger venues. Also, it's important to be monitoring patrons putting their feet up on the chairs or up on the gaming machines, because it happens. As we know, COVID, the bacteria falls to the floor, so it's really important that people's feet and shoes aren't up on the furniture as well. Bathrooms is another really important one as well. They need to be well stocked with hand wash and sanitizer, and if there aren't hand dryers in there, they need to have single-use paper towels. So we've also got, I've got a link here for the posters with the instructions, the hand washing ones. Those have been up at almost every venue that we've been to in the bathrooms, just encouraging people to be a little more mindful of how long they are doing that for. Okay. Now, the communal areas is a hard one, especially with your registered clubs. There's such big areas and there's so many communal areas. But I'm just going to run through the things that we've been looking out for during these inspections to make sure that the order's being met here. So the removal of any serve yourself food service areas such as buffets, communal bar snacks and communal condiments. So that also includes things like your, if you might have trays of gaming snacks late at night, like pies and sausage rolls. It could be buffets in restaurants. Some do breakfast and lunch and things like that. So all other arrangements need to be made there. Your single-use items such as straws and napkins need to be kept out of reach of your customers. So on your bar tops, they need to be behind, and ensure that your staff, when they are handling these, are using gloves when providing them to customers as well. The cutlery as well, it cannot be kept in communal areas anymore. We are encouraging single-use cutlery, but it's not always appropriate or practical. So it's just important that these are being handled by staff with gloves and kept out of reach so nobody can kind of rummage through them. Any non-disposable cutlery and tableware can only be used when it has been washed in a commercial grade dishwasher or a glass washer. So that's really important as well for the bacteria side of things. One of the other things that we've been keeping an eye out for is the risks pertaining to pool tables, dart areas and arcade games. So obviously these are really super high touch. You need to make a really honest assessment of whether or not these can be sufficiently cleaned between every patron, and if not, you need to make them unavailable. Another important consideration with this one is the requirement that patrons that are drinking alcohol are seated. And obviously it's really hard to manage that, because quite often when patrons are playing pool or they're standing playing darts or they're using the crane machines, they've probably got a drink in hand as part of the social experience. So that can also be an issue, and it prevents people from that sitting down while consuming liquor as well. So just something to think about. A lot of venues that we've been to have pulled their pool tables and arcade games and buck hunter machines and things like that out of play for now. If possible, different areas for ordering food and collecting food are really useful. Just stops that commingling of the coming and going, especially with the food. So if it's possible, some venues it won't be, but it's certainly encouraged if you can. The free drinking water is super important. You always want to make that available, but you need to remove the communal jugs and cups. So some venues have put signage up where those used to be. Just a friendly reminder, ask our bar staff if you want a glass of water. It might also mean little bottles of water. Just make sure it's still there, obviously, but you can't have any kind of communal urns or jugs where people can handle the cups that other people might be using as well. One of the things that we've been encouraging, obviously it's not mandatory, but it's certainly encouraged, and most venues, especially larger venues, have already done so, is encouraging venues to become a COVID safe venue. So it's a simple process which you can do online. Once you do have your COVID safety plan together, what you'll do is you'll be registered as a COVID safe business, and you'll be sent some material that you can download, not only for your websites, but also you'll get some posters and stickers, big blue ticks that you can pop up in your venues, which is just that added layer of comfort and security for your patrons to know that your venue has been recognised as a COVID safe venue and that you're going above and beyond to ensure their safety. Throughout the inspections that we have done, we've had so many questions. Obviously, it's such strange times and things are changing so rapidly. We've had, I think, 3 different checklists already with the new one that's come out today. It's changing so quickly and it means something different for every venue. Everybody's got a slightly different model. So what we've done is we compiled the most common questions related to this, and we've put them on our website here that you can see. But if you don't have, if you aren't able to find the answers that you're looking for, reach out to Liquor and Gaming New South Wales, reach out to your local liquor records or your licensing police. There's certainly been a lot of collaboration there in the message that's going out to industry at the moment, that they're more than happy to assist venues, especially ones that are genuinely looking to ensure their compliance and safety at their venues. So hop onto there if you've got any questions, or feel free to send myself an email. I'm sure my email address will be included in the presentation. Or reach out to your local licensing police. Thank you.
Well done, Rebecca. Thank you very much. Yes, we will be showing at the end of the presentation the email addresses of all of our presenters today. So if you do have any questions for them, you can note down those email addresses, or of course, contact me and we can put you in contact with our presenters. It's really important that every venue understands not only your sole responsibility to your own patrons and your own staff in implementing all of these procedures, but your responsibility to the whole industry. We need to make sure that every one of our clubs is honouring the responsibilities and the guidelines and implementing all of these procedures, because we do not want to have any breakout of infections traced back to clubs who have failed to follow the correct procedures. That would be incredibly damaging for our industry and damaging also for your club should that occur. So that's why we're running this seminar today, because we think it's really important to remind you of these key points and to give you an opportunity to clarify any matters that you may have. Now, Rob Mulherin from Crest Security is our next presenter. Rob, would you like to load up your slides? And Rob will start talking about security issues. Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Gary, and very well done, Rebecca. It was quite interesting. Amazing some of the changes we've had over the last few months of this virus. What I'm talking to you today about is some ongoing threats and possible mitigations. I'm not going to clarify some of the scenarios, which I'm sure Dean and Rebecca are going to go over, but look at some of the technologies that we're already, some of the clubs have introduced. My background's in police and security within this industry probably for about over 18 years. I consult for Crest Security, which is a leading guard company. I do work with CCTV and also risk management and training. So I have a wide spectrum of what's involved in the industry. But basically with the minimise the threat, obviously, and Gary touched on it then in relation to, the last thing we want is a club to come under notice and be a hotspot. You read some of the American press and, someone goes to a bar and 70 people catch something. So, it does happen. Look at Victoria's scenario. They're in, again, back down to a lockdown thing. The people and public and patrons are still worried. They're worried, the scenario, what might happen, and the venues, are the venues safe? And certainly the measures that Rebecca talks about is something we can look at, and especially that part where, from a marketing perspective, we're a venue safe, COVID safe venue. What I'm going to show you today is a couple of options, which are already in a number of the clubs, but talking about elevated body temperature cameras, and also looking at, if we get a chance, which I hopefully will be able to run through, is some people counting cameras capabilities. So we've already made changes to the situation with your front entry, and it varies from scenario to scenario. I've been in a number of venues where we're doing license checks and we're doing catching mobile numbers and photo and names, but different scenarios. Some of the clubs are doing thermometer checks. Whilst that's appropriate, this is probably another measure to look at as opposed to doing thermometer checks. A lot less invasive, much more cost-effective way of doing it. But I had a look in the marketplace. There is probably 15 products in the marketplace, and they're still coming out on a daily basis, some of these developments. There's been cameras running around systems, particularly say a FLIR product, which is a market leader for years, but they're very, very expensive products. I've looked at a number of them. I went and had a look at a system called Hygiene over at their warehouse and showroom. And then about 2 days later, Channel 9 have done a story on it. So I thought I'd show you that. It's just what it does is I can sit here and try and explain to you. But if you look at this video, it's quite informative and just show the capability of what's available now. So I'm just going to play this video for you, hopefully.
It's incredible technology, and in a coronavirus world, it'll be the new norm. You're looking at a thermal imaging camera, which can remotely and quickly check for a potential fever.
So you'll notice that the crosshair at the top there is actually looking for that forehead surface area and getting that temperature of his forehead.
The cameras can be wall mounted or placed on a tripod. There's even a handheld device, and soon you'll see them at the entrances to places many of us visit all the time.
Look, I think we'll see them everywhere pretty much. Aged care, independent living, schools, hospitals, pubs, clubs.
The cameras, which measure the heat our bodies are radiating, are accurate to within ½ a degree. If your temperature is under about 37.5, then you're good to go. But not everyone will get the green light. To give you an idea of what would happen when someone walks in with a temperature, I've got a cup of hot water in my hand. I hold it up to my forehead, the system registers that my temperature's too high, and an alarm sounds. If a possible fever is detected, that person's temperature would need to be double checked. After that, it's up to each site as to what comes next.
Whether they send the person home, whether they put them into a cab or an Uber, get them to a doctor.
Thermal imaging cameras have already been rolled out at St Vincent's Hospital.
If they're just simply a visitor, we will turn them around and ask them to go and see their GP.
It's likely the cameras will also be used to protect the vulnerable in aged care, with safety organisation Care Protect demonstrating the technology to major providers across the country.
It's critical that they receive the visitation from their relatives and families, but we've also got to make sure that those premises are safe.
Natalia Cooper, 9 News.
Okay.
Hey, guess what?
So going back to that, going back to my speech is okay. So quite informative there in relation to what it's available. That sort of picture tells 100 words, 1,000 words. There are heat sensing technology. Basically, any product that any person or any item that is above zero temperature will create a radiation which gets turned into a heat sensing and gets into a thermometer. The heat sensing, a number of industries already using it. Obviously, your pest controller who uses them every day, checking walls, looking for termites. Your electricians on there looking at switchboards use them to look at hotspots for failings on the switchboards. And from my background from the police and emergency services, they use them again every day with body searches, searching for people in the waters and also in bushlands and escapees. And recently, I saw a video of where they're putting on drones looking for injured koalas after bushfires. So, you know, they're quite effective tool in what they do. But what they are, they measure elevated body temperature. As I said, some clubs have already put this in place. The benefit to the venue is that it's minimising the risk to the patrons and also the staff. I do encourage that staff be, as I said, with the venues already have in place, is that the staff go through it on the beginning of their shift and the end of their shift, just to double check that from a safety perspective.
Rob, we haven't got your slides up at the moment. Do you want your slides to be up?
Yeah, I can do that. Hang on one sec. Sorry.
Doesn't matter. You can continue to talk if you'd rather just talk.
All right. Okay, how are we going with that one? Sharing now. Is that back up? Gary, yeah? Okay, so...
yes, it is.
Okay, fantastic. So how the system works, it doesn't need to work on it's totally integrated with your other CCTV system. We put a camera in there, we put a small network video recorder, a DVR recorder, and we do a monitor. Basically, the beauty of the system I've seen, this Hikvision one in particular, was on the network video recorder, we're getting and as this showed here, we're getting a thumbprint of everyone that comes through. And gets their, won't get their name obviously, gets what time they come through, gets a photo of them and tells you their temperature when they come through. Documentary evidence of this is quite relevant now from my policing background, but also, as I said, the indication here is that, and Gary from Hikvision's here done a indication where he's put the water up there, but it gives you that indication that someone's come through at 41.9 degrees temperature. So having that system on the documented evidence, that stays as a 3 terabyte hard drive in it, so it stays in there for many, many months, the recorded thumbprint. As I said to you earlier, there is a number of systems out there. Some of them are very expensive systems, and they do probably different roles, different jobs, different capabilities. The Hikvision one I looked at was, it's cost effective, but highly efficient. Some of the more formalized ones, and probably the more accurate ones to a degree, you will come out and you will stand in front of the system, probably take 3 to 4 seconds to analyze you. It will be checking your temperature at the corner of your eye, and it's going through one by one. The beauty of this system, as I said, for a club industry scenario, it's highly efficient. It's taking 1 second to complete the surface temperature scan. Another person it's a multiple people at the one time. So if 5 people walk through, it will scan 5 people at once. Will show you the temperature of each of those people and record those on the system. The accuracy of the system is 0.5 degrees tolerance. It's not intrusive. These systems have capabilities with a handheld from about 1 meter back to a larger bullet camera is 9 meters in range. So one of the venues we put it in is on very discreetly on a back wall and capturing, as I said, from a 9 meter range. So it's not, goes away from the scenario where you're holding a thermometer next to someone. They're wall mounted or pendant mounted from the ceiling because they've got to be at a certain height to catch your capture face. As I said, the record of snapshot and the temperatures recorded. Also has, and you saw in the video there that it has the capability of letting a strobe light go off or a noise from the camera you can turn that off again, have audio other warnings from the recording device. I think the recording from a camera going off with a strobe light and a warning is a little bit intrusive. WHS measure, I think it's fantastic. If I had this, the first thing I would do is be putting my staff walking past in the morning when they start their shift, and simply walking past at the end of their shift. Again, promoting the fact that I've got a safe venue for my staff and a safe venue for the public. Positive marketing tool, as I said, we're doing this extra thing to make it safe for you to come to our venue. It's a positive marketing tool. As I said, the standalone system can integrate with some systems, but basically most of them are having standalones. Cameras are self-calibrating, so they take about 30 minutes to set up. Installations about a day, about 6 to 8 hours. They are for internal use. They are not to be used externally because, as I said, wind, sun do affect things. As I said, very affordable. Looking at, as I said, the Hikvision one's a very affordable workplace tool. A few concerns in relation to these cameras. What the camera does, it measures skin temperature. That's all it does. It's not a medical device. It looks at the skin temperature, and there's a number of factors which affect the skin temperature. They're having them in office blocks at the moment, and the feedback is that people ordering Uber, the Uber drivers will turn up and been riding there on a push bike or a beanie on, they'll come in with a ridiculous skin surface temperature. So, as I said, activity, someone's run to the entrance, external temperature. The feedback from in Victoria, where they had a cold day, everyone's temperature was lower because it was colder outside. Makeup, sweating, all these things affect these. So, as I said, they are not a medical device. They are a tool to provide the operator with supportive information. It doesn't identify a virus. It doesn't identify COVID. Doesn't identify if you've got the flu. It just said that the flu and COVID, a symptom of that may be elevated body temperature. That's simply what it does. So there is some concerns to Chinese manufactured products. So there is concerns in the marketplace in relation to Chinese products and their sort of relationship with the open network video at the moment. There's a bit of debate about their acceptance. Very important part of it, which I thought I would add on to it, is and whether you're doing your thermometers, whether you're doing the cameras, or whether you're doing anything, I think something you need to look at is what happens after we get a positive or an indication. Basically, again, making the venue safe for your staff and the patrons. So basically, looking to identify an area where you can come do a secondary test. So we have a designated area set up, have the necessary equipment for your staff to wear protective equipment. What we ask is that the patron undergoes a further test with a medical device, which will be a thermometer. If the person passes that test, then generally they recommend that you would allow them back into the venue, If testing them, if it indicates a raised temperature, what we're recommending is you stay for 5 minutes and try and get your skin to adjust to the temperature inside the venue. So we're looking at that scenario, leave them there for 5 minutes. During that time, I would suggest that your staff always keep a safe distance, social distance, obtain the people's details, ask them whether they've been to other areas of the club, and ask the standard COVID questions. The health, have you displaying signs of fever? Have you, been overseas? Have you been exposed to anyone who's had the virus? Use that time to sort of get some data in relation to it. I would retest the person after that 5 minutes. If their pass is fine, I would allow them back in the venue. If they fail their secondary test, I would look at not allowing into your venue. I would probably suggest you have your details of your nearest hospital or testing facility and recommend that they look at that option. Look at, another thing is looking for a designated escape route, making sure that you're not where you're taking these people out or asking these people to leave from the venue is a safe venue. There's no staff, there's no patrons coming in. So having that sort of pre-arranged area. If needs to be arranged transport for the people, either the home to a medical practitioner, advise the transport provider of this scenario to measure the COVID practice the COVID safe procedures. If they've got signs of respiratory distress, obviously look at first aid procedures if you need to, and also ensuring that you've got COVID safe scenarios. Following that, if you've done that test and they've said it's the person having come into the venue, I would obviously get the area cleaned, sanitised, very COVID cleaning. Record the incident in your record, instant recording, instant register, and report the information to management. Gary, I've got probably another. Can you just show another video? People count video goes about a minute. Can't hear very well, but
Okay, well, yeah, it needs to be very quick because we're running out of time.
Okay, yeah, I've got no sound attached to this one because I've had terrible background music on it, but I will play this video now. This is just another option you may look at, and we've got regulations which have changed probably 3 times since we've come in, and it talks about your people counting, how many people are allowed in the venues. We've had a number of inquiries in relation to this. Where they're allowed in certain venues. This is just some of the capabilities of the system of people counting capabilities. And you'll see here, one of the great things is the display from the monitor. So it's actually counting people going into the venue, how many are in there, how many are, counting people coming in, people coming out. A couple of models of cameras. There's a one from the side and there's an overhead camera. If you look at that display on the right hand side, it's measuring people out, so it takes one out, one more is allowed to come in. So you've got that capability if you wanted to. Very, very clear, not overly expensive. Can do multiple entrances as well. So this one's 2 overhead, 2 cameras, and they're both counting on the capability there. So they're just other options that clubs may be looking at to address these things. Other than that, that's about it. If there's any questions, my details are here. If you need to chat about anything, always happy to provide some information to you at any time. I've got my email and my...
I do have a couple of questions from people who've been listening, Rob.
Mm-hmm.
So firstly, you kept talking about the temperature one being cost effective and cost efficient, but you didn't actually tell us how much it might cost. Is there some price range that you can advise people about for that?
There is. I did take that out of my thing because you've got a handheld option. There's a couple of handheld options there, basically around the $2,900. The 3 metre range one, which we've put in some venues, that's just under 9,600. That's with the recorder, with the camera, and also the monitor. Plus installation. Installation is probably $600 or $700. The larger one with the 9 metre range or 7 metre range is around the 15,000 mark. So they've actually, the price came down at one stage about 7,000 in relation to those bigger ones. So I think the manufacturers were starting to have a bit of a hit. Then they realised that they've got to come back to reality. So as I said, you look at that. It can work for you 24/7. The handheld ones are hook up to a Wi-Fi battery, and they're sort of battery limited. The others are powered from your PoE switch and linked in there full 24/7.
Okay, another question we've got is with regard to smaller venues, how far does the Hygiene need to be away from the front door? How far does for it to be effective?
Look, realistically, ideally, they say they look at light, don't look at things, but I would suggest somewhere in the vicinity of 4 metres. The longer the better. One of the venues we've probably got about 9 metres away. It's just the outside effect of the wind, the temperature, the skin as they come in. So the more time and they get to use to that environment. So the camera's set to that environment, but the more time your skin gets to adjust to that, the better. But as I said, always got the capability of redoing again. But the beauty of the whole system is that you're just simply walking past it. That's all you got to do. You know, it's there. It's letting you know. You can set it up for your duty managers. No one has to be there. If it sets an alarm, it can activate and let your duty manager know someone's come in and this is the person's come in. This is his temperature. You know, not the ideal situation, but you can come and, you know, ask him out of the venue again. So there's all those scenarios. You're not sitting there holding. I find it a little bit intrusive, the thermometer, but you know, you said it's something that can be done once you've sort of identified that person may need that.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Rob. A very interesting presentation. If you could take your slides now off the screen.
I can do that.
Stop sharing. And you've seen there, ladies and gentlemen, Rob's contact details, and I will put that up again. You've got to stop sharing.
I'm about to get to that, yeah. Trying to get to that one. Hang on.
Down the bottom of your screen, there's a share screen thing, and it says stop sharing.
Okay.
Our next speaker, while Rob is doing that, our next speaker is Dean Thomas, the CEO of Canterbury Hurlstone Park RSL Club. Dean will be talking about how all these guidelines that we've had from government and from the different departments, how he's actually implemented them in his venue. So welcome, Dean.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks, Rob, for your presentation, and Rebecca, thank you for yours earlier. Gary's asked me just to share our approach to the implementation of a safe environment from June 1, and also share what the experiences have been in the last 30 days. We took the view that whilst there was an enormous amount of new compliance on what is already a heavily regulated area, there was an opportunity in that to operate in a new way. So what we've tried to do in our approach was, I guess the mindset we took is that we wanted to start on June 1st with a way of operating that would continue. So we didn't see it as an interim step to getting back to normal. We believe it's a new normal. So we sought to operate our club under this new normal, our clubs, I should say. So that's the view we took. What I'll go through is just what our customers would have noticed, our members noticed on the 1st of June, and talk a little bit about what they may not have seen, which we did behind the scenes with our staff to create the right experience. We don't have the technology that Rob has shown. We're just using handheld temperature checks, but we are doing temperature checks. So what our customers would have seen when they came in, and I'll just share the screen now, and I firstly apologise for how poorly my presentation compares to the other presenters. So what we have when you walk into the club is a temperature check with a handheld device, and then every person is required to sign in. The technology we're using, we'd always had, it was a sign-in technology. Now everyone's using that. So we're recording who comes in and their...
Your slides aren't up yet, Dean. Have you got them live?
I thought, hang on, I thought I shared screen. Hang on. How's that?
And that's it. Thank you.
So it's just some technology where people can use their license to scan in, and we record everyone who comes in. We're also temperature checking all the staff when they come in as well. So everyone who enters is their temperature checked, and obviously with the staff, we clearly know who they are. They're on the roster. And we also, at the same time, everyone has to sign out as well. So we record the details of everyone who's in the building. The reason for that is back in the end of May, when we knew we would be opening on the 1st of June, the feedback we had was, in a worst case scenario, would be that a venue is investigated for a positive case of COVID-19. Contact tracing would come into effect, and the feedback we had at that time was that may cause the venue to be shut down, and the ability for the venue to provide as much detail as possible to the authorities would determine when the club would be able to reopen. So that's why we had that. That was our rationale for that level of, one rationale for that level of compliance. And the other is we took the view that the safer people feel, the more comfortable they will feel, and the more likelihood they'll keep returning to our venue. So that's what people notice when they come in, when they get in the venue. The other thing we did is our floor plans and our approach. We tried to be at all times compliant, but also positive. So we came up with this way of communicating what we expected from people, which was play safe. That's the sort of brand we initiated, which is having a little bit of fun with a serious topic, as you can see there. And just that's throughout the venue, and it's a brand we've rolled out and we continue to use, just encouraging people to do the right thing. The other thing people would notice when they came in was the floor plan. Now, what we chose to do was remove a lot of furniture to comply with the limitations. And I won't show you a lot of pictures, just the one, which is our gaming machines. Rather than turn every second machine off, we chose to remove them just to create a different type of environment. As I said at the beginning, our strategy was to, in this very unusual time, try to normalise it as much as possible, at the same time being safe. So that's one step we took. With our sort of lounge and bar areas, it was a similar approach. We put some tables together, and we probably had as many tables as we had in the past, but a lot fewer chairs. Those lounge area layouts have now changed from today. So with the new regulations that have come in. But just to reiterate, our approach was to, when people walked in on the 1st of June, it was clearly different. There's different ways of doing things, but we wanted to get people to the point where it's a new normal as quickly as possible. So that's the approach we took. I might just stop sharing there and I don't have any more slides. I'll just speak to the other strategy we had. Is that all right, Gary, if I do that? Just turn that off. So what our customers would not have necessarily seen, and it picks up from Rebecca's point about the importance of the staff feeling well and safe in the environment. So knowing that we'd open on the 1st of June, what we did is we got the crew who would be coming. It's not all our staff came back, but the crew who came back to work, we got them in quite early, about a week ahead of the opening, so that we could re-induct, provide the right training. There was training that was done online. There was a lot of online training, but train the staff in the right procedures so that they felt comfortable. I took the view as a CEO that in this new environment, there would be a lot greater expectation on staff to A, deliver the right experience, but also ensure people are behaving the right way. So we were expecting more of them, so we needed to provide them with the right level of skill and the right procedures, which was another reason why we put in place that high level of compliance at the entry. So our staff, we provided the right training to our staff. The other key thing we did is we put our staff into teams. So it's interesting with the restrictions. I don't know if this is the same in every venue, but the experience is trade tends to be quite even across the week. So, sorry, I should point out the other thing that our customers would have noticed is the absence of anything that would be there to drive traffic and create too many people. So no raffles, no bingos, no promotions, no specials. So that was all removed. So to avoid the potential for more people than we could handle. So what we did is we put our staff into teams. So a line manager or duty manager has their own team. They're on a shift rotation, so they're responsible for delivering that right experience. We changed our opening times. We pushed that back a bit. We'd normally open at 9 a.m. We've pushed it back to 11 a.m. Gives that team the time to prepare for the day, do all that cleaning that needs to get done, prepare the venue, gives them time to have a bit of a team talk, set out what's happening that day, the roles and responsibilities. So that's been something that's been very positive for us, that trying to create that right sort of environment for the staff to be able to deliver the experience we want, which will make us be successful, but also be compliant. So that's the approach we've taken. Things sort of go up a notch now, 1st of July, so it's going to be interesting going forward if we can hold the line on some of those things. That's our intention. The experience we've had is, with this high level of compliance at sign-in, there's a little bit of fatigue creeping in amongst our members. It's interesting, the feedback, until about a week ago, a lot of members are saying, look, how long we've got to keep doing this? You know, I've been coming in every day, you keep checking my temperature. If I come in twice a day, you check me twice. But the staff, as I said, we need to stick to the rules, but it's been interesting the last week. They've reversed their position a little because things have gotten worse in Victoria. Some members are saying, oh yeah, well, I can see why you're doing it. So generally very positive early on feedback from people. A little bit of pushback on the sign-in sometimes. And the sign-outs, just people have never been in that habit, so that's a bit tricky, but for the most part, people are very appreciative of the extent to which you go to help keep them safe. So our experience has been pretty good. I'd agree with what Rebecca's point before about the need for the staff to be considered very highly in this as well. So yeah, that's it, Gary. Mine was quite brief. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Dean. I think it was very useful to have somebody like yourself who's actually running a club and having to implement all these guidelines to give your outline of your experience. So that was very useful indeed. Thank you very much.
So I might just add, Gary, it is the next phase will be challenging as well as the limits raise of just keeping this process going. So because there's a lot of pressure from society, from people who come in to get back to normal, and a challenge for venues is to avoid complacency. That's going to be what's challenging going forward.
Yes, I agree. Thank you, Dean. I've put up there on the screen the contact details of each of today's presenters. And we will also, if you would like a copy of the PowerPoint presentations from each person, please let us know and we can send you a copy of those PowerPoint presentations. It's been a very useful session, so my thanks to Dean, to Rob and to Rebecca for your presentations today. Our next webinar is on in 2 weeks' time, on Wednesday the 15th of July at 1 p.m. And our topic is customer service strategies in the COVID world. So having a look at how we now need to manage our interaction with customers and deliver the services and support that they want in this different environment where there are different rules as far as customers using the bars and lining up and ordering food and ordering drinks, etc. So we'll be sending out advertisements and marketing about that next webinar over the next few days, and we look forward to having you participate in that webinar. But for now, thank you all very much for your attendance, and thank you again to our presenters.